Hey y'all, welcome to another exciting episode of Life on the Ave. Today we are sitting down with Mr. Chris Locke. Chris Locke is the co-founder of SL24, and you're also general counsel, senior vice president of Lang Development Group. That's where Chris and I first officially met.
Many years ago.
Got to know each other very well, did a couple stints at LDG.
Yep.
Some fond memories. Yep. So SL24 was founded in 2018 after the passing of our friend and Chris's son, Sean Locke. Sean was a St. Mark's 2012 graduate who then went on to play basketball at the University of Delaware. Same time I was at UAD playing lacrosse. So Sean and I knew each other pretty well. Sean was a three-time academic All-American and captain of the basketball team. Sean was battling with depression and anxiety and stunned friends and family when he took his own life in July of 2018. Chris, the Locke family, Sean's friends, and the surrounding community came together to form SL24 to help others who are also hurting in silence. SL24 Unlock The Light Foundation is dedicated to unlocking the student's light by providing resources for those struggling with depression, self-injury, and suicide. In 2 weeks, Chris and the entire SL24 team is hosting the 6th annual SL24 Memorial Basketball Classic down at the Chase Fieldhouse in honor of Sean. The funds raised will allow SL24 to keep providing valuable services and programs at Sean's House. Sean's House is a free community resource for young adults ages 14 to 24. It is a space designed to help members of the community improve their health and well-being and connect with their peers in a safe and confidential environment. Support is available 24/7 for young adults to talk about mental health or substance use challenges with other young adult peer specialists. So first of all, thank you very much for joining us, Chris.
Thank you, Vince. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you making the big trek up.
Absolutely. From big old Newark, Delaware to Trolley Square. So,
to the big city.
Yeah, to the big city, exactly.
Yeah, to the big city. So, hopping right into it, like it's just unbelievable. Like 6 years has gone by.
Yeah.
And I think everybody, like anybody you talk to on the street, they all have some sort of baggage. Everyone's got, something going on in their lives. And I would say the kudos that I want to give you is, such a dark time in a lot of people's lives that we have, transitioned into something that is, in my opinion, like a lot less stigmatized, a lot more out in the open in 2024. So, loaded question, but how have the past 6 years been?
Great. Well, that's a great first question. I would say it's a journey. It's been 5.5 years since we lost Sean. It'll be 6 years this July. And there's nothing worse as a parent to lose a child. And then to lose a child by suicide just gives it a different type of layer. When you lose someone, there's a grief process, but when you lose someone to suicide, it's a completely different grief process. 6 years is a long time, but it seems like just yesterday that we lost Sean. Mm-hmm. You knew him, Mary Kate knew him, kind of Tuxedo knew him, a lot of people here in the team. Trolley Square became kind of his stomping grounds after his years at Delaware. So, it's like park here. I see the local places that he used to visit. And it's like, this was his place after college. So, but the 6 years, I don't pull any punches. They're tough. Mm-hmm. There's not a day I don't think about him. There's not a day I don't miss him. And still 6 years later, it's still very emotional to talk about it.
Yeah, I definitely hear you on that. How has one of the main topics that we're going to talk about today is the Memorial Basketball Classic, the SL24 Classic. How has that helped you guys in your grieving process and on this journey?
Right. Well, you have a decision to make when you've lost someone. That grief can swallow you up. And it can swallow you up in all your relationships. It can swallow you up in your business career. And you have to make a decision. What are you going to do with this grief? I'm reading a book right now by someone who wrote 25 years ago. And you have to make a decision to go through that darkness so that you can eventually find some light. So what the Basketball Classic, what SL24 has done is it has allowed us during our grief process to try to have meaning. When we started SL24, we had no idea it would be what it is today. It was, we had lost Sean in July. A group of us got together in December and said, all right, let's do something. And it was really Trevor Cooney, who I understand will be a guest of yours in the month of March.
Yeah.
Trevor was the catalyst to do this basketball tournament. And his concept was, and he was good friends with Sean, they used to be competitors and they were friends. And he said, let's use sports to try to have a conversation about mental health. And you said something earlier, which is so true. We're much more open now, 5.5 years after losing Sean, to talk about mental health issues. But 5.5 years ago, we were not. The stigma was great. And I think Sean suffered in silence because there was that stigma, and Sean was an athlete, and you're a former athlete, and you know. Your whole identity is based on your strength.
Yes.
It's very hard to admit a weakness because you've been programmed to suck it up, to push through the pain, which is great if you're an athlete, but it makes you a horrible candidate to deal with mental health issues. And I think Sean thought, I'm going to get through this. Like I got through my ACL and my bad back. I can just push through it. And he didn't quite understand the seriousness of the disease. And it is a disease. You didn't do anything to get it. But the person who's suffering with it feels guilty. They feel like they're hiding behind a mask, and they're like saying, why do I feel this way? Why can't I feel joy? What's wrong with me? And that just gives it another layer to really get the help they need. So Trevor's concept was, let's try to remove that stigma. And how do you do it? Let's try to unite sports with mental health, and specifically basketball. So the original plan was to do one little tournament, and he was with Puccini at the time. One of the last things Sean did was get Trevor a job at Puccini. So we had all this going on, and they were opening up the field house. So, well, what a great idea to kind of open the field house with the SL24 basketball tournament. And the original plan was raise a little bit of money, give it to a national foundation, and call it a day. But what happened is, as you know, you were there, we had 3,000 people show up. Yeah. We raised over $200,000 in one night. And we felt the community was saying, let's do something. Let's try to take the legacy of Sean and really change it, and really change the way we talk about mental health, and remove that stigma, and let people have that honest conversation that Sean never had. Sean never could have that honest conversation about what he was dealing with. So here we are 5.5 years later. We're going to have our 6th tournament. Sean's house has been operational for 3.5 years now. And who would have thought? I never had any idea it would be what it is. And it's people like you and Mary Kate and thousands of other people here in the state of Delaware that have kind of rolled up their sleeves and say, yeah, I'll volunteer at this event. I'll give this money. I'll donate my time. I'll donate my services. I mean, you, Mary Kate, your dad were all there scrubbing and dirty, cleaning Sean's house, for it to become, quote unquote, Sean's house. Yeah. And, it's not just, it's far by me. It's all the people that love Sean and really want to change the conversation that we have about mental health here in the state of Delaware.
Yeah, definitely. And a couple questions come to mind, and like one of the first ones that I think about whenever this happens. Unfortunately, I got a call earlier this year, lost a family friend to the same thing.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
And I've heard you talk about it before. It doesn't discriminate.
No.
And I remember where I was like when Mary Kate told me, and he was last on the list of anyone that I ever thought would happen to, and it was definitely a big eye opener into Sean and I are the same age, so he was going through it, and it like there are help out there, and I think what you guys have done is truly phenomenal. So, do you want to kind of drop some stats, some stuff of, I know you have them,
I do, but I also want to touch on something you just said. people who have this disease, I think they truly believe they can deal with it. They can manage it, But it's like saying I can manage cancer. You cannot manage it by yourself. You've got to see a doctor. You've got to see a mental health professional. You may have to take medicine. That's how you manage it. But I think sometimes people who deal with this, and specifically men, think, I got it. I got it under control. And I think what happens is you don't know when that day is coming. I don't think Sean saw July 18th as his last day in 2018. I think he woke up just like it was any other day, and something happened that afternoon. And that's the perilousness of this disease, is you don't know when that long dark train, as the old country song says, is going to come and get you. And that's why it's so important to have these conversations and remove that stigma, so that people who are suffering, like Sean did, can say, yeah, I got something. I got to get the help that I need. And they have to feel like you don't have to feel guilty for asking for the help, So, I think that's Sean's legacy. He suffered in silence, so other people do not have to suffer in silence anymore. Statistics, Sean's house has been open for 3.5 years. We've had over 24,000 people come to the house now. I remember when you were there, I think the first week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, we're going to insert some pictures here. Throwback dust-covered pictures.
Some dust, who would have thought that you'd have that many people in 3 years? We've had over 4,500 use that peer service you talk about. And that peer service is really the magic source of Sean's house. These are young people who know what it's like to deal with an eating disorder, depression, anxiety, bipolar, know the stress of being a student athlete, and they go through an 8-week training program, and they volunteer their time to sit at Sean's house and wait for that person to come in who wants to talk to somebody. And that is a lot of times when someone gets that first conversation. And then what we try to do is try to facilitate getting them the help they need. And that's what we are. We really facilitate for them to get the help they need. And we've saved now 107 from a suicidal crisis in 3.5 years.
It's amazing.
We have a scholarship program that if someone cannot afford to see a mental health professional, we'll pay for it. No questions asked, for as long as they need it. Because we don't want any barriers to get the person the help they need. So if they can't afford it, the community has blessed us with great blessings. And if we can put that back in the community, that's it. We have 22, 23 young people now that are using that scholarship program.
That's awesome. Yeah. So we talked about it a little bit. And I like having it, like, when we're talking about depression, mental health, sometimes it's hard to, picture this, but having a physical place, the 136 West Main, what does that, mean to the Locke family? Like what does that house look like, when you drive past? What kind of emotions are kind of stirred up there?
It was his house. I mean, he lived there his sophomore, junior, and senior. You may have been there for a few of his
I don't know if I was cool enough to get invited.
But, it was the place. Everybody, knew what that place was. I always joke when I would have someone come in and sign a lease for one of our apartments, and I would introduce myself. They would say, "Are you Sean Locke's dad?" And then, a conversation would always go, "Oh, I was at his house, and he had this party, that party." So there is great satisfaction knowing that his house is helping so many.
Yeah.
But on a personal side, it is his house. So when I walk in there, it's not this esoteric Sean's house. It is literally Sean's house. It's my son's house. And there are memories in that house that come flooding back every time I go in. But that house has changed to now it is really the community's house. We've had, it's not just college kids that come in there. It's high school kids. It's middle school kids. It's young professionals.
Yeah.
It's doctors. It's lawyers. It's teachers, who come in and say, "Look, man, I'm struggling. I need some help." Originally we were going for that age group, 14 to 24, that 10 years of high school and college and a couple years after college. What we have found is we've had people as young as 8 come in and as old as 38 come in. We're not going to turn someone away because they don't happen to be in that particular age group. So
I like that. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. There's always, it always seems like there's like room, at Sean's house. And I love seeing it. Like, you're talking on like a personal level. I love like when the teams are introduced there,
Yep.
The cheerleaders come through or the basketball team comes through. Like, I think, I don't want to speak for him, but I think Sean is looking down on us, just very proud, that you guys are carrying on. We're carrying on, this legacy and turning 136, from fantastic college memories, now into a place that is a staple. It's on a beautiful street on West Main. The backyard's beautiful. The mural's beautiful back there. And being a part of that process on the ground floor, volunteering the time, working a full day's worth of work, showing up at 4:00 and putting in 4 hours at Sean's house when we were doing it. It was so rewarding leaving from there. Just being like, okay, like this is going to be an awesome place.
And it is, and it's because of people like you, Mary Kay, and so many others. Catherine said, my daughter said, everybody thought they were Sean's best friend. And that was the magic of Sean. Sean was this type of person where you felt like you were his best friend because he had great compassion and he had great listening skills. He was a very, for all his success, he was a pretty humble guy. And he wanted to just be there for his friends. And I think that's the thing. When he passed away, I knew he was popular, but I had no idea how popular he was until I had lost him. I think, Sean was one of those guys that just listened. Unfortunately, he could not communicate what he was going through. And I know because people have come up to me and said, I used to talk to Sean about my own mental health, and he never said a thing about his own. So if we can change that, that's what we're going to do. And I think he is looking down. There are many times that there's a sign that, okay, Sean's here. It's truly amazing. One of the things I'll share real fast is at the basketball tournament a couple of years ago, our daughter Patty was playing for Padua. And she was a JV player most of her career, but she happened to get in on some varsity time. And the first time she played varsity was at the tournament.
Nice.
So she had never scored varsity points or anything. And she wore number 24 in honor of her brother. But she shoots a foul shot for the first time and gets her first point. And as I looked up at the scoreboard, the score was 24.
That's amazing.
So it's those little things that we know Sean's looking down at us. And so, keep going. Keep going at it.
Yeah, definitely. And also I have a fond memory of like the first year watching Aiden get in the game and just start chucking threes.
Yeah, exactly. He was gonna score in that tournament no matter what. So he just kept on shooting until he did. And that was Sean. Keep shooting until you make it.
Yeah. Exactly. And like going back to what you were saying, like the little signs, like, while he might not physically be here, you have 3 grandsons all born
on the
24th. Which is
just amazing. I mean, as Catherine would say, oh my goodness, he's everywhere, but it is magical to have these 3 grandsons. And you talked about the journey. Those 3 grandsons have definitely helped me get through some really, really tough times because life is a circle, and they bring great joy and great happiness to us, no doubt about it.
Definitely. And and I'll say going through, our journey of life, everyone kind of goes through some stuff. I was going through some stuff in 2019 where I finally reached out to someone and saw my life coach. And I've been seeing her off and on for the past, 4 or 5 years now. And definitely shout out. Her name's Tracy Craig. She 100% like saved my life.
And good for you to say.
Yeah.
There's many times I talk about power of vulnerability. For you to be vulnerable and share that, you're going to help somebody else. I tell everybody in my office, I'm going to go see my therapist. And they know every Tuesday at around 9:00, I'm going to see my therapist. And I'm not standing here today if not for my wife and a couple close friends and my therapist, So we need to talk more open, especially as men.
Yes.
We need to talk more open about, I see a therapist and this is what I'm dealing with and all that, because that's how we're going to remove the stigma, one person at a time.
Yep. Yeah. And like talking about, you and what kind of what I was just getting at is now having 2 kids. You're a busy business guy. Mm-hmm. You got a bunch of kids.
Yes, I do.
You got a bunch of kids. Yeah. But like for me, it's just been like if I can walk in the front door and my daughter gives me a hug, like my whole entire day's made.
That's right.
Yeah. And so like the reprioritization of my life now at 31 is way different than it was, 10 or so years ago.
Yeah. Or even 5 years ago.
Yeah. Even 5 years ago. So how has like your life been, kind of like reprioritized?
Well, I'm a little bit older than you.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, I'm I talked about life is like a basketball game. And the first quarter is your 0 to 20 years, and you're just trying to figure out how to play the game.
Yeah.
You're just trying to figure out what's the opposition like, what's the opposing team like. And then the second quarter, which is what you're just beginning, is your 20 to 40. And you want to go halftime with a lead. Mm-hmm. And you're starting to figure it out. You're starting to understand the mistakes you may have made in the first quarter.
Yep.
And you're trying to figure it all out. And then the third quarter is your 40 to 60. And as any basketball coach will tell you, those first 10 minutes of the third quarter are really important.
Yes.
And you really want to focus and really, really do a good job so that your fourth quarter, which is what I am now in, my 60 to 80s, hopefully you're coasting with the lead.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can enjoy life, and those first 3 quarters was all worthwhile. So that's where I am. I'm trying to get to a point in my life where I'm just living in the moment, living in the presence. My therapist talks about it all the time, live in the presence. And I think when you're building a career, when you're trying to build a business like you, Mary Kate, are doing, there's a lot of energy on the future.
Yes.
And we're going to hit this benchmark and then hit this benchmark and hit that. And that's all good, and that's what you two both did as athletes, now what you're doing as business people. But when you're so busy with that, it takes away from other things. That's life. I don't think you can have a work-life balance. Sometimes life takes more time and sometimes work takes more time. But hopefully by the time you get to the fourth quarter and your knees are hurting a little bit and your back is hurting a little bit, you can enjoy life a little bit and sit back. And as I was saying to you earlier, you look back at the second and third quarter and go, yeah, they were tough, but look where we are in the fourth quarter.
Definitely. Definitely. I say that too. You'll get a crack out of this. I say that to Connor all the time. I said, hey, man, we're not picking up trash. I'm like, Chris Locke isn't yelling at us right now. It's all good, man.
Exactly. And conversely to say that, I say this to my people all the time too, is, hey, we're not doing brain surgery.
Yeah.
So you take it seriously, but it's not life and death. It's not brain surgery. Mm-hmm. So make sure you put everything in perspective.
Definitely, yeah. Can you talk a little bit more? That's something that I have really kind of tried to figure out. Don't necessarily think I figured it out, but like there isn't that like work-life balance. I kind of look at it as like it's the work-life integration, and like we're at a point now, and I'm sure you are as well too, where if someone's being difficult with me, I'm at a point where I'm from an abundance mindset, hey, I don't need to like deal with that person sort of deal, where I can like, refer them out to another agent, et cetera, et cetera. So kind of like your work-life integration, because this, running this whole charity foundation is a full-time job. You have a full-time staff as well too, in addition to
I'm working full-time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You hold a pretty prestigious position, both at the company that you're at that you help build, and also, you're an upstanding member of the Newark community and Delaware at large. So yeah,
but the integration is great. I think your generation does a better job on that integration than my generation did. When I was 31, it was work.
Yeah.
Work. I think you guys, to your credit, does a much better job to integrate. And you said something about, if I got a difficult customer, maybe I'll just pass that. Well, that wasn't the case. When I was a young attorney building a law firm, I took every client I could take because that was the mindset back then. I think nowadays, it's more like, okay, is this person going to add value to my life?
Yep.
You know, and that was not a conversation that was happening 30 years ago. So good for you. And I think that's why you've been able to build the business you've been able to build. Say, why waste your time on something that's going to be toxic? You might as well spend time on the people that are going to enjoy and value your services that you provide. So, but that wasn't the case with me. That comes with age. That comes with wisdom. I'm now able to say, okay, yeah, I'm not going to do this. But at 31, no, I pretty much took whatever client walked through the door.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned it a little bit before in the fourth quarter of your life, like, you know, talked about living in the present. What, like, how do you kind of like look at the future? Like, you know, kind of going through something like this every day is a gift. You know, every day that you open the eyes and your feet hit the ground is a gift. What are you looking forward to in the future? Open-ended, you know, take it wherever you want. Yeah.
So you're part of that basketball analogy I use about life. So the head coach is God. And you don't know when the coach is going to take you out of the game. We all think we're going to live forever.
Yeah.
You know, and I can tell you, after losing Sean, you realize your own mortality. You realize that we're not going to live forever. You also realize you're not as in control as you think you are. And I think that was probably one of the toughest things after losing Sean, is realizing I'm not as in control of my life that I thought, or in the control of others that I thought. I thought Sean would come to me if he had those problems. He didn't. So now, as I'm in the fourth quarter, I try to say, okay, how am I going to live life to have meaning? How am I going to live this particular day? If this is my last day, what am I going to do? So I try to be helpful to people. I try to be empathetic. And look, I was not always this way, as you know.
I've been on the receiving end.
You've been at the receiving end. It has definitely, losing Sean shows that empathy is really important. You know, I think one of the reasons why Sean never came to me to talk about his mental health is I would have said all the wrong things, as most fathers would have said. I would have said to him, suck it up. You're Sean Locke. Look at all the things you have. Or I would have tried to make him feel better. As a father, you want your children to live a great life. So when you see them suffering, you would want to try to make them feel better. So I would have probably told him how great he was. Well, that's the last thing a person dealing with depression want to hear.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear that. That just makes them feel worse about the disease they have. So I try now to really listen to people. I don't worry about if I'm going to be 10 minutes late to a meeting because I'm having a conversation with this particular person. That's a really important moment. So live in the moment, have that conversation with that person. If you're 15 minutes late to the next thing, maybe 15 minutes late to the next thing.
I wish my wife was here to hear that.
Well, she'll see you soon.
Oh yeah. Because you know how it is. You know, I run on realtor time, so I'm 15 minutes late. And
that's right.
Of course, I married someone who's 15 minutes early.
That's
to everything.
Right. Yep. It's good yin and yang, so that's good.
Yes.
She's your normer in your life.
Yes. 100%. 100%. Yeah. So, kind of, you know, we were talking about you. Where do you guys have like a vision? You've been running the foundation, been running the tournament, kind of, you know, where we see SL24 going over the next, you know, 5-6 years. You guys got a strategic plan?
You know, with any organization, you have to have a plan. And, you know, the reason why we've hired Zach Ryan, who's now the executive director of SL24, and Angela Puglisi, who runs Sean's house, is the recognition that for this to be sustainable, it has to be more than just family and friends. We have to get professional. So Zach has got 12 years of experience in nonprofit and mission work at Sally's and whatnot. So, you know, he's going to take that to the next level.
Nice.
Because this has to be more than just Sean. Yeah, for you and I, it will always be about Sean.
Yep.
But for those who may not have known who Sean is, this is about mental health. This is about providing a resource for people to get the help they need. You and I both know what the catalyst for the foundation was. So I think the next 5 years, you're going to see Zach and you're going to see Angela take a much more dominant role in the foundation. And that's the way it should be. So.
Awesome. So, like, you know, hey, I'm not a basketball person or have no involvement in Delaware high school basketball community. Like, what can I kind of expect at the event, or, you know, kind of anytime, you know, say if I were to walk into Sean's house, you know, what, like someone who has like no background, like, you know, because as you're saying, we went through a similar thing. I had a friend pass away. We ran a tournament for a few years. And, you know, now he's kind of memorialized with a scholarship in his name at the high school. But, you know, these kids didn't know him. They didn't play with him. So, you know, to this like next generation coming up, like how do you guys introduce that when you go speak at a Sally's or a St. Mark's? Like how do you guys start to, you know, spread that message?
Right, so I'll handle it a couple of ways. So the basketball event itself is just like any basketball tournament, but you realize very quickly that this is something different. You see the memorial area where people can write a note to someone they've lost to suicide or someone who's struggling with mental health. You'll see a table over there with mental health information. You'll see the merchandise table, but all that merchandise has messages. But then we also make sure that we sprinkle in throughout the games, each individual game, messages about mental health, because we know there are people in the audience that are dealing with this silently. And, you know, we live stream it. We have ESPN, NBC professionals that stream this event, and we, you know, sometimes get about 10,000 viewers during that event. So that goes around the country, and people see that. And the commercials during those breaks of a basketball game are about mental health. And that could be from people who have their own personal journey or something about Sean's house, whatever the case may be. So that's the basketball event. And you see that in a quick story. So I usually speak right before the Sally Sanford game at 8 o'clock. And then I also speak the night before at the St. Mark's event. And I was speaking one year about mental health and people suffering in silence. And I learned later that we ask people, if you're dealing with depression or anxiety, stand up. And we believe that's a really bold moment for someone to stand up, because they may never have stood up before and share that. And someone stood up, and their son never knew that their mother was suffering. She was 82 years old. Yeah. He was in his 50s, you know. So that moment is what that tournament is all about, to give voice to those who are suffering in silence. So that's the basketball, the event. In regards to Sean's house, I mean, we designed it to be like grandma's house. You know, it's not clinical. There's no sign-in sheet. You can just walk in, hang out, grab some cookies and a soda, and talk to absolutely no one. Or you can talk to a peer, or you can just talk to one person. It's on your terms. We meet you on your terms. And that's why everything at Sean's house is free, and that's why the house is open 24/7. It's when you want to come in. So whether it's 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night, or 2 o'clock after Grotto's is closed, that place is there for you. And then, you know, the presentations we do, I mean, the idea is say, hey, here's someone that you would have looked up to. He had everything that you could want. He was an athlete. He was good looking. He had success in his career, everything. But here's what was behind that. Here's what was behind that mask. And you in the audience, and I've been doing it now long enough, I know those in the audience that are suffering just by their body language. You can get the help. Don't be like Sean. Don't suffer in silence. Ask for help, and then help is there for you.
Appreciate that. Kind of last question on that. Anything else you want to say about SL24? We've covered a bunch here.
Well, we'd love to have you come to the basketball tournament. You know, it's a great community. We had over 7,000 people attend the event last year. So just come out, learn about it. It's a great day. You see great basketball. Trevor Cooney does a great job selecting the teams every year. This one's a little bit different. We have a really top program from Philadelphia playing against Ursuline at 4 o'clock on Saturday. And then we have Kennett's High School coming in. So we're trying to broaden it a little bit for some of the other schools. But just come over and have a great time. I mean, that's what it's about. It is really a reunion, so to speak, of everybody in our community. How
many hands do you think you shake?
Quite a few. quite a few. But I'm okay with it, because it all comes from a point of love.
Definitely.
Everybody's there because they're there because they care about somebody in their family. So it's all good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. So we'll link all that information in there. Appreciate you coming on and talking about that. While we got you, we got to hit you with, some other life questions as well too. So, in addition to, everything else you do, you also own a tuxedo shop.
Yes.
in Newark, Delaware,
Yep.
Formal Affairs.
Yep.
Fun fact, we'll maybe throw another picture in here. I'm actually a model for Formal Affairs.
You were a model.
Yeah.
With Sean, if I remember. Yes, that's right.
Yep. Yeah. Sean, it was Kurt, and Kaz, I think. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I have that picture. I'll have to pull that up if you don't have it. So there you go.
Yeah.
All my prom tux was there.
Nice.
There you go.
Perfect. What's the special? Is it $49.95?
It's $69 now.
$69.
$69. Yeah, prom special. So there you go.
Thanks a lot, Joe Biden. Inflation.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. But any advice as a business owner? Business owner, father. Yeah.
You know, I was 27 when I bought that business. It's 35 years later. And I think, and you know this as a business owner yourself, I mean, it's trials and tribulations. It is. You don't want to own your own business thinking it's going to be like this. It is a roller coaster ride.
Yep.
You know, and many times you have to pay your employees before you pay yourself, you know.
That's one of my favorite Chris Locke stories. Yeah, swiping the credit card.
That's right. Right. You know, so it's important to understand, as anything in life, it's a journey. And just because you may be here doesn't mean you're not going to be up here. And it's been great. And, you know, I can't believe it's been 35 years that we've owned it. I was literally a kid when I bought that business. And anybody who's thinking about owning their business, do it. Do it. The worst that'll happen is you fail. And that's not the end of the world. I've learned more about life, about my failures than my successes. And if you have that entrepreneurial spirit and you want to do whatever it may be, whether it's tuxedos, real estate, a baker, whatever the case may be, just do it. Follow your dreams, because you don't want to look back in your life at 55 and say, would have, should have, could have. You know? So, as I said, the worst thing will happen is you fail. And that's not the end of the world.
Love it. He's talking to you, sir. That's who he's talking to. We're working on with Pat here.
There you go.
Definitely, I get the sense, you know, when you walk into Formal Affairs and you see Norma, and you walk into LDG, you know, I'm sure you met these kids when they were kids at 18, 20, getting their first job. A lot of them are still there. Advice on working with family, your spouse. Yeah.
Right. So that's always a challenge, as you may know. You know, now I don't work at Formal Affairs too much anymore. Norma has done a much better job running that business than I ever did. But it's like anything in a marriage, and the same thing with business partners. It's a give and take. And, you know, you have to understand that this is another human being, respect them, love them, and admit when you're wrong, you know, and that's tough.
Yeah.
And especially tough for guys. You know, admit when you're wrong. And I think that's success in any relationship, whether it's a business relationship or a marital relationship or whatever the case may be. So
Awesome. And then just out of curiosity, do you have any plans on hanging it up anytime soon, or you just going to be a hard charger?
I mean, I have a plan, but not in the near future. You know, I like what I do. You know, being with Line Development has been a great 20 years that I've been there, and having Formal Affairs has been a great 35 years. But I think you have to know when you can't hit the fastball anymore. I don't want to be that athlete that stays on the field a little bit too longer, or that boxer who stays in the ring too long. So, but right now I'm still hitting the fastball. So I'll keep doing it while I'm hitting the fastball, and then the minute I don't, then I'll know when to hang it up.
Yeah, personal one for me, and I'm kind of like running into this a little bit as well too. It's a good problem to have. How do you kind of handle like just being like the mayor? Like, you're like the unofficial, maybe official mayor of Newark, but you know, I kind of deal with it the same way. I go out and like Mary Kate's like, I lived here my whole life, but more people know you,
right?
You know,
you're the mayor of Charlie Square.
Yeah, a little bit, but just kind of like you know, just talking to all those people and keeping up with them. It's definitely an art and definitely a skill. How do you like juggle that?
Well, I don't see it as a juggle. I love it. You know, I love being part of the Newark community for 47 some odd years now. So I enjoy it. One of my favorite movies is It's a Wonderful Life. Have you ever seen it?
I need to watch it.
You need to watch it, because you are living It's a Wonderful Life right here in Charlie Square. It's a great Christmas movie. Jimmy Stewart's in it. It was done, I think, in 1946. And we actually talked about this at the thank you event at SL24 just recently. And I do truly believe I've lived that movie. It truly has been a wonderful life living in Newark, being part of a community, having roots, as we were just talking about,
Yep.
you guys having roots here in Charlie Square. And there's no greater value than that. And there's a line in the movie, and I may mess it up a little bit, but a man's worth is based on the friends that he has.
Yeah.
And I had tremendous friends, not only in Newark, but throughout the whole state of Delaware. When I was a young attorney coming out of law school, I remember I asked my grandfather, should I go back to New York or should I go back to Delaware? And he said, it's better to be a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
And that's what Delaware affords all of us. And it's such a great community that we can help each other. I mean, I think the reason why SL24 is so successful is for exactly that. It is the Delaware way. Everybody's helping to make sure that nonprofit is successful. We're not looking to go national. It's just going to be a Delaware nonprofit. So going back to your premise of quote unquote the unofficial mayor of Newark, I love it because I love helping people and I love being friends with people. I'm a people person. So I don't see as a juggling, is it at times I want to be left alone? Well, sure, any human being wants to be left alone. But if someone picked up the phone and said, hey, can you help me with this, help me with that, I'd be more than happy to do it. So, and as you get older, you see people who you knew when they were in their 20s, and they're now becoming successful. There is great value and self-worth to see people that you may have had a small, increment of part of their life, to see them become successful. And there's, as the movie said, there's no greater reward.
Definitely. I definitely
So watch
appreciate
that movie. You'll love that movie.
Yeah, I need to watch that.
Yeah.
Need to watch that. Yeah. Last couple questions
Sure.
here. Just we met working at LDG, and I saw that concept, and I'm doing my best to learn from older, wiser gentlemen like yourself, and kind of bring that next generation up as well too. I like that concept of big fish, small pond. Like when you ride around Newark, Delaware, like what is like the sense you get? Hey, I transformed this corner. I was a part of this. Like, how does that feel when
Look, Jeff and I both went to Newark High. I mean, we are truly local boys in the neighborhood, and Jeff had the foresight back in the 90s to look at Main Street completely different than anybody else. And then when he started Light and Development, I was fortunate enough to join him in the early 2000s. And we look at things and we're like, wow, can't believe we did it. I mean, to know that we brought a 104-room hotel, Hyatt hotel onto Main Street, that is truly generationally changing Main Street. I mean, long after he and I have hung it up, as you were saying earlier, that is going to stand as a testament to the vision that we had at Light Development to really do it. And and started with Jeff 30 years ago in the 90s, and hopefully I've had a small role in helping him to make that happen on Main Street. So awesome. It's a great reward to see that you've had an impact on your town. Yeah,
definitely. And final question here. I know you had a lot, but who was the best trash guy you've ever had at Lang Development for turnovers?
The best trash guy. I'll do a shout out to Connor Tuxedo.
Yes.
He's very detail oriented. He may not move the fastest, but he got every piece of trash picked out. So that's for you, Connor.
Definitely love that. Yeah. Mary Kate's always on him. She's like, this guy has so many questions. So I'm like, he's thorough.
Yeah, he's very thorough.
I'm like, Connor, the trash just goes in the dumpster. Like, it's on the ground. You just got to put it in the dumpster.
Right.
Put it in the dumpster. Yeah. Well, Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate your time.
Really, thank you so much, and thanks for supporting SL24 as you guys have done from the beginning of the whole thing. You and Mary Kate are definitely angels and always help us, and just can't thank you enough. Thank you for letting us get the word out about the tournament, and we'll see you guys on February 2nd and 3rd at the 76ers Fieldhouse. So
appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in, all. Love you guys.
Thank you. See you.